A very good evening and a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Each and every week, I have the pleasure of breaking bread virtually with authors, speakers, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs. And today is no exception. It gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome my dear friend from Dubai, Rajeev Daswani. Welcome, Rajeev.
Hi, Gautam. How you doing? Hi, everyone. So
Great.
excited to be here, Gautam.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you. So, Rajeev is someone I've known who himself has gone through his own journey of transformation as a family run business, as an entrepreneur, to now the CEO of the Happiness Coaching Center in Dubai, working very closely with corporate leaders and organization and bringing conscious leadership to the workplace. He has the Happiness Center. Health and well-being is something which is really a core part of every organization now more than ever before, especially when we're sort of in a virtual world, a hybrid model sort of sentiments where our team members, our employees, their health and well-being is so critical to the success of every organization. So it gives me great pleasure to have a conversation with him today, which I believe can add a lot of value to those with us on this LinkedIn Live. So welcome, Rajeev.
Thank you, Gautam. I've been following your Breaking Bread series, and it's amazing. The speakers you have on, it's an honor to be here. Following last week's, it's going to be a challenge, but let's have fun with this one. We have a couple of good questions, right? So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Looking forward. To me, one of the great learning lessons I've had from speaking to various corporate leaders, entrepreneurs like yourself is really what is the questions we need to be asking ourselves. And I wanted to really ask you right up front, is what would you say is the most powerful question we need to ask ourselves from your point of view?
I love that question, but I'm going to answer it, I'm going to delay as I answer this. And I'll tell you why. There is a lot of small questions we need to ask as we ask this final big question. And
Sure.
Before we do that, let's put everything in context for a bit. Gautam, look, the last couple of years has been challenging. This pandemic has come out of nowhere. We have seen the world, really realign itself. I like to use the word realign because a lot of us have had to adapt. A lot of people initially reacted to the situation. Many started to respond and find things that they could bring to the table so that they could really realign themselves to deal with this pandemic, right? So before we talk any further, we obviously sympathize with everything that's happened. It's been tough for so many around the world. Our hearts, our prayers, there's, as you know, we continue to pray, we continue to send love to everyone. But
Yes.
With that said and done, Gautam, we've also taken a lot of lessons so far. A lot of us are still learning. We always learn, right, Gautam? So
Yes, learning is a lifetime journey, and I think this last year and a half we've really dug deep and in terms of self-learning as well as learning from experience. Yeah.
well said. And a lot of organizations have had to ask a lot of questions. Initially the questions were, how are we going to cope with this pandemic? How are we going to deal with people from working from home? A lot of organizations, brick and mortar, who didn't have the capacity, the technology in place to accommodate right away, had to react immediately, right? Just imagine, doors locked. Now suddenly you don't have that available, right? How does your
Right.
business survive? Okay. Your questions, organizations were thinking from questions of, okay, how do we meet our productivity, our profits? How do we hit our numbers, right? What do we do? Do we realign things? How do we manage our teams? Are they working? There was all these questions organizations were asking. Fair? Okay.
Yes.
People, our teams on the other side of the table, if you're working for a big organization, you started having questions too. Your questions are, wait a second, I can't go to work. I got to work from home. I've got a family around me. How am I going to focus? Am I going to be safe? Is this okay? Is my loved ones, are they going to be safe? People in other countries got them. Some people don't live with their families. They were
Right.
worried, right? So all these questions came to the table as well. Fair? Now,
Absolutely.
these are all important questions because they're very relative to the truth of what everyone's experiencing, right? However, as organizations started to work over the last year, a lot of these questions started to get answered, right? We found innovative ways, right, to build trust in organizations. We found innovative ways to communicate. Technology like this made it possible to create borderless interactions. So
Correct.
there's so much we have learned. Our families, many of us have got vaccinated, and things are looking over. We're looking at the world as a new normal. So the big question now, as we move to the next stage of this, the question that we now have to ask, because the small questions are being answered, Gautam, the bigger question is, how do I make impact? How does my life count as an individual? And number two, how does my organization show up? How does it actually make impact? Yeah, two very big questions, but if you look at it, it's one real question as an individual, as an organization. Now, if we don't answer this, Gautam, coming back into what we want to refer to, whatever you want to call it the new normal, the normal, whatever you want to call it, okay? My question to you is, so much has come out now. We're coming to the other side of this. We understand as humans how important our breath is, how important our health is. We have all started to prioritize things that are important to us. Now, as we come back to the business world, the corporate space, do you think we're coming back the same way we left?
Not at all.
How does my life count, Gautam? That's the question. That's the most important question we need to answer as organizations as well.
Right. These are questions we need to be asking ourselves and our teams and our organization. Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm going to add one aspect to this for you. Organizations are, as they come back now, and in a lot of countries and different places, right? Some are still working from home. Some have variations of the RT or return to office scenario, right? A lot of organizations now, as they start to ask this question, the first step before you really answer a question like this is, why is this question important? Why do we need to ask this question? So I throw it back to all of you. And again, since we're on LinkedIn, people can share your thoughts on this, but you come back to work today. What's important to you? You know, you obviously want if you're a leader, you want your company to be, productive. You want it to go out there and hit your targets and numbers. But if you ask your question, why or how am I creating impact right now? We call this what I like to use terms. I use these terms that I kind of make up. I call it's time to humanize the corporate space. It's time to really look back into the way we operate our operations and understand, okay, yes, we're selling ABC product. Yes, we're doing ABC service. But really, what difference are we making in this space? What else can we do more of? What can we really do more of right now that can really impact the world positively, at this point in time? Yeah. Questions we need to ask. Another way to look at it is also, where are we? What scared me, Gautam, is pre-pandemic, there was a study. And the study was that 85% of the world was disengaged at work.
85%.
85%. There was an actual study done. I think Gallup did it, and it was somewhere there, 85, 86. But it's regardless of the 1-2% up or down. Gautam, the question that I throw this question to you: how can people love what they do if 85% of people pre-pandemic didn't want to be there, bro? They were not engaged at work. Isn't that scary?
Absolutely. Those are very high numbers, and be it as CEO, be it senior leaders, if those are the numbers that have been brought to my attention based on a credible survey, then my deeper question is, why is that happening? Why are our team members, our employees not engaged? And get to the root cause of that. Because if they're not engaged, then this is just a job, a routine, a tick box, come to work, get paid. There's no engagement, there's no ownership, there's no shareholding mindset in the business, and it's just routine, and that is really concerning numbers, and that too pre-COVID.
So well said. So look, I'm not going to take an extreme space on this and say that this reason or the other reason. All I'm saying is it's definitely a flag, and this is pre-pandemic. This is the time when we were all focused on driving on objectives, KPIs, ensuring we're hitting our numbers, right? Yes, we have to work on our people. It's important, but it's a soft skill. I've heard this many times. I've been in this industry for a while now where, well-being is very important. It's so important, but hey, do we have to pay for it right now? Okay, wait a second. Okay, what can we do? Can we take a box here? Can we measure someone's well-being? Okay, let's do that. But it's taken from that space where, okay, it's something else we have to do. But when I see numbers like this, where it says 85% of people are disengaged, it asks me bigger questions. The bigger question here is, are we really paying attention to what this is telling us? It's telling us that most people who come to work don't want to be there or are not highly engaged. Something isn't aligned. Then we talk about culture. And we say, okay, well, culture, we have a culture in place. We have 5 words on a wall that represent who we are. But is this a living culture? Is this really a representation of the entire organization. And what does that mean? See, what does it mean? In the pandemic, one of the most amazing things that did happen while working from home was that a lot of organizations' cultures were tested, right? Because now, you have people who are already from home. They're on their phone from home. You're not talking.
There's no human connection. It's all virtual.
It's all virtual, man. So
every company's culture was tested at the highest level. You're not having face-to-face interaction. You're not having team meetings. You're not having corridor conversations and popping in for quick sound bites or conversations. Everything is virtual. You're relying on that to test the strength of the culture that your organization has or doesn't have.
So well said. Initially, and the most important thing was our cultures were tested. Why? Because every individual's culture counted, right? Depends on where you are and how you are represented, yes? Or representing what your role was in the organization, number one. Number two, if you notice, at least in my organization and a lot of my clients' organizations, the conversations became very deep. You know why? Because, organizational management, as we came on these virtual meetings, we had to acknowledge where everything was. We had to identify, wait a second, guys, how are you doing? And for the first time, a lot of organizations really wanted to know the answer. Gautam, how are you doing, buddy? How's your family? Are you safe? And guess what? We really want to hear the answer to that, right? So, and when someone asks you, it came with the same concern. Why? Because we were all vulnerable, right? None of us came with a ready-made antibody. We all were vulnerable, bro.
Absolutely.
So what does that tell you? It tells you that that's where we had to drop all our masks. Everybody had to show up the same way, right? Conversations became deeper. Guess what? You have your Zoom or whatever platform you use. You're limited to 40 minutes, man. So now you check in, you make sure everything's okay, but it's no longer superficial check-ins. Now it had to be really deep conversations that were driving somewhere. And accountability had to show up. Yeah. So now, Raj, you're going to do this. Gautam, you're going to do this. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's fix it. Okay, let's go. Let's get doing it. So teams started becoming more efficient. A lot of organizations, I've had conversations with some leaders who tell me that during this period, they were able to see the gaps in their efficiencies. They were able to see, cost structures that they could correct. There were gaps in their communication. There was a lot of gaps, but more than anything, they said it was the first time they really understood what it meant to show up human, to connect with people, to understand, to create that trust. Say, Rajeev, now I understand when you say build trust, what do you mean? It doesn't mean come here and just check in, say you're doing and move on to agenda. No, it was for the first time going, listen, guys, are you genuinely okay? What can I do for you? Well-being no longer became a tick in the box, Gautam.
Absolutely not. That's been one of the biggest changes in COVID is these questions were not asked. And if they were just asked as routine. But today, it's the primary start of every conversation because there's a genuine concern not only for your team members, but your team members' families. Because if your families are affected, then you are caregivers and you need that flexibility to support, empathy, understanding. So these, health, well-being, wellness, these questions that you ask your team members were very omnipresent in the last year and a half for sure.
Well said. Absolutely true, Gautam. But now let's deepen this for you. Now we're coming to this era. So we've had that. We've realized, okay, now the human element is very important. No longer considered a soft skill. Okay, you can consider what you want. But as a real leader, when you ask the questions, in the past, and I've had this, a lot of people who are in this space will also agree to this, is a lot of people would say, what is the ROI on this? What's the ROI on well-being and culture? Oh, that's great, but how does it help my numbers, right? Well, science was already there, and if you just Google it, you'll get the answers, right? The answers are right there. It shows you 10x. There's amazing science behind this that people tell you why it's important. But now you actually get to experience the benefits of it, and you got to experience the fact that when people are resilient, when they're with you in a team and that's able to adapt to this kind of situation, not knowing certainly what's going to happen and being able to find ways to come together so that you can have not only your united vision, but you can hit your numbers somewhat, right? You can work your way through the waves. I like to call it navigating the rough waters, Gautam. When you're navigating it, dude, you're navigating it at that point in time, right? You might have 100 ideas, but your first priority is, okay, how do I navigate this and survive this period? And then what do I do, right? What was remarkable? what was remarkable was during those times, many organizations with solid cultures, with amazing, I talk about this all the time, but purpose-led organizations that people go, oh, purpose is so fluffy, soft skill. Guess what got them? Purpose-led organizations showed up during the pandemic and did these amazing things for the world. And they might have been selling something else and suddenly it turned around and they made ventilators, or they did what they could do to help, right? It was remarkable. It was remarkable. You're like, wow, that company counts, man. Today if I was to go and choose to buy something and they were a choice, I personally would probably choose them, because when it counted, they showed up, right?
Yeah.
Organizations that have done amazing things for their employees during these times have been empathetic and compassionate and have shown up with love. I use the word, I'm going to use it a lot later on, but initially I'll tell you, those organizations that did, were not weak. In fact, they were the shoulders that the world needed. So we could hold on and say, thank you. You're helping me, my family, and you're helping me during these times. And I love you. I want to be in this place forever. I want to make sure we go together. But you know what the glue was? The glue was the purpose. 1 in 2 CEOs, another statistic that I read, I'll throw it out to you. 1 in 2 CEOs, I read somewhere, have not worked on their own purpose, but have written the mission and vision of the organizations.
Right.
So I don't know where I'm driving. Eyes are closed, but I want to drive the organization there. I'm going to drive it, man.
Yeah.
You see a problem with that, bro? I mean, I'm not saying it's just things to think and contemplate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
and the
sense.
beautiful thing about this journey is that all it really takes is to start to realize that we are humans going to work. AI is fantastic. It's great. I love it. I see all the amazing things technology is doing. But I also love the fact that we are human, that each of us are unique, that each of us have our own strengths, our own personality types, that each of us has our own purpose. Now, if you're a CEO and you can tap into your own purpose, you can align your organization's purpose and your vision to your purpose as well. And then in your purpose, you ensure that everybody in your organization lives their purpose so that they can meet the organization's purpose. Can you see the beautiful alignment and structure, right?
Phenomenal.
Is it too idealized? People ask, it sounds very idealistic. Guess what? There's tools out there that do that, Gautam. That's the beautiful thing. Everything exists. Just do you know where to look for it? And how can you then start to take the next step forward?
Yeah. No, absolutely. On a slightly different tangent, I mean, we know HR managers, the HR departments of all organizations, be it in the Gulf, be it in India, is very a people-centric role. How, from your experience, have their roles changed? I mean, people talk to HR managers now in Dubai. I've seen a lot of designations change to Chief Happiness Officer, health and well-being, sort of people development, sort of really the designations change, but to some extent the role has also evolved from what it was in the past. From your conversations with HR managers in Dubai, what is your experience been of the transformation that they are going and taking place in the organizations?
Wow, powerful question. First and foremost, I think I want to acknowledge, HR managers out there. I really do, because I know that first and foremost, their whole being at this point in time wants to ensure that they can take care of the people and represent them fairly. They can look into their well-being and say, hey, what can I do for you at this point in time? And I know it's challenging because there's so many balls in the air. And what I mean by that is, like I said, depends on your business, depends on the industry specific, your economy at this point in time, whether you're locked down or the RTO, are you returning to the office, are you hybrid? There's so many different things that they have to juggle with, right? So what I've seen, the biggest difference that I've seen, Gautam, and this one's really interesting, is the perception switch. The perception, okay? Initially, a few years ago, it was, yes, we want some well-being, happiness is important, our people are very important to us, it's very, very important. So that's great, fantastic. Okay, so let me have a look. It was very to the point. This is what I want. Okay, tick, done. Okay, we've done some well-being things for our program. Exercise, yeah, we do exercise, very important. Good, right. This time the conversation has switched, bro. And I'm not saying it is what it is, right? Times will change and people start to realize, there's other, your people are very important, but it's not because they're just people. It's because every single person is part of your culture. Every single person comes with his own set of values, and that represents your entire organization. Your values are the entire representation of your whole organization. And when you look at the values that we're living versus the desired values, that will tell you the gap in our business, right? So it says, hey, this is why we have something called, in the Barretts, they say entropy, which is the wasted energy, or what I would say disengagement at work, right? So guess what? We can measure it, right, Gautam? So
Yes.
What do HR managers, what do we tell them now when we talk to them and they go, listen, right now they're talking to me about how can we help our employees be more resilient? They're dealing with stress. We need something that can really help us, help them, overcome stress. Can we build resilience? Okay, but Gautam, here's the thing. Now, I mean, from the industry that I'm in, it's no longer come in, do one event, bye-bye, and everyone's going to smile now. See, now transformation is more important than change. Change is it's like motivation, inspiration, Gautam. I can come and motivate you and go. And then again, I come to motivate you and go. And again, I come to motivate you and go. And you're like, yes, motivate me. It's fun, right? Or I can give you the tools so that you can embrace transformation and inspire you so you see where you want to go. And you embrace that journey so that every single day you're moving one step forward towards where you want to go. Yeah. My job is to hold the space for you and show you the mirror. Now you say, Raj, are you showing me a mirror? Well, I love the mirror. I love using the word mirror, guys. I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because when you see the mirror, what do you see? You see your perception of what's in front of you, right? You're going to see different things. Different people will focus on different things, right? The mirror will do a lot of good things for you. But the problem is 90% of us don't look in the mirror when it comes to these kind of things, right? I want to build my resilience. I want to deal with stress. Well, guess what? We have to not only change the circumstance, we have to start to reprogram our mindset. We're going to have to start understanding, first of all, where are we as an organization? Where are we? Where are the pain points of the entire organization? Where are we showing up? How are we showing up? What's really important at this point in time? Where do we want to go? So what does that require? It shows the mirror. First and foremost, gauge where you are. So for example, I switched in conversation with HR managers. I no longer spoke about culture from, hey, is culture important? I said, hey, why don't you audit your culture? And they were like, huh? And I'm like, okay, let's first find out where your culture is. Okay, you have amazing values. Let's see where they are. And guess what happens, Gautam? The first thing we find what values are not showing. These are the 5 words that I thought are very important. But the culture it doesn't show those. It shows the actual living values of the people. And those are the values that we're showing, right? Right. Engagement and areas where no. So what I'm saying is now it's really about embracing transformation. I applaud organizations because they're stepping up to the plate and going, listen, we understand that it's very important to take care of our people. But guess what? No longer is it just enough to tick a box. Now we have to actively participate. What can we do to make this part of our living? Make this a living entity, embrace it into so we can help them transform.
Excellent. No, absolutely resonate with what you've shared. And that's been a big change that I've also observed in conversations that we have. I mean, we both speak to, HR managers, talent heads, CHROs. So it's something that has really been a transformation from a couple of years ago to today. So what are you currently working on, Rajeev? Come 2021, we're hoping to be, on the post-pandemic sort of era as we come, hopefully, with a lot of vaccines coming in, be it in India, be it in the Gulf. How do you see things moving forward for, leadership post the pandemic?
It's really interesting now. Like I said, when we started about 5-6 years ago, I used to use the word happiness a lot. So people are like, let's talk about happiness. And I love it, but I was talking about happiness from the state of being. And it sounds very difficult for someone to ascertain when you can't, what are you talking about? But the truth was that as we have moved forward, we've started realizing that this is really transitioning into what I call conscious leadership. So what I've been focusing a lot on is conscious organizations. So what is a conscious organization to me? And I'll define it my way. This is my definition of it. Some have resonated, some have loved it, some have come back to me and gone, wow, I've never thought of it this way. But it was really about an organization that operates through love and knows the essence of what it is to be human. Now, before you throw things at me and you go, Raj, what are you talking about? I'll explain. We are all going to work every single day. We spend a lot of our time at work. Yes. And there's this whole concept of work-life balance and this whole concept of, okay, this is my time. But I never understood that because I said, if you are going to work every single day there has to be something coming out that, that empowers you at work.
Right.
That once you want to be there, you want to be part of it. And to be part of something, you have to be cohesive. You have to be included. You can't be excluded, right? So in other words, an organization has to operate in a space like a family, right? You have to actually bring love to work. So no, I'm not talking about the physical element of love, but I'm saying the state of it. Yeah, CEOs. Now, what does it take to be a conscious leader? So I wrote an article the other day, and because they were like, listen, it's fantastic. We all want to be conscious leaders. What's your version? How do we do it, right? So I said, well, let's be practical. Number one, I spoke about measuring and how important it is to have a culture that actually represents the entire organization. I spoke about that, but I'll give you a few elements that I talk about. One is purpose. I really, really think that now we need to zoom into purpose, because even if you look at statistics, companies that are purpose-led are actually, making more money. They're doing better. Okay,
no doubt about it.
Right? So that's already been. There's books about it, man. So people can find that out. And so, looking at purpose, but not as a floating statement, but making it tangible enough to take purpose, move it into action. Okay, so having conscious organizations that are purpose-led, organizations that understand that empathy and compassion are non-negotiable. We need to now understand it's not when it's suitable to me. Okay, now right. I'll be compassionate. Okay, I will do my CSR. No, right? I mean, now, and we've seen it. It's been remarkable. See, Gautam, during the pandemic, everyone has had that. Everyone has had that cape on. Everyone's come up and said, listen, man, we understand. Don't worry. Take care of yourself first. Take care of your family. We care about you. Please be safe. We understand the importance. So compassion, empathy, coming to the table with trust, vulnerability. These are topics that a lot of people have spoken about, but how do we apply it? How do we open up these walls, drop the mask so people can show up authentic? Because now the new generation coming in, with organizations I'm working, one of the phenomena, everyone gives it names, right? Generation Z and I don't know what letters come in next, but they're like, but they come in with purpose. They want more purpose. They don't want to work with just, numbers. They need something more meaningful. Of course they do, but so does every human. So does everybody else. Everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to be able to come into the table, and perform. Everyone wants to be engaged. It's not that they don't want to be engaged, Gautam. It's just that somewhere along the way, our systems have managed to disengage them. So now let's humanize that back so that we can say, hey, processes are there, and processes, coming from an engineering background with my engineering company, processes have value, but so does the human element. So we have to drop the soft value labels and look at it from, it is proven to do better for us. So what can we do to apply these conscious leadership traits, as conscious organizations? How can we focus on impact creation? Is our objective and mission not only limited to being the biggest, the best, but is it really to do something for the world at large? Can we positively influence it? Gautam, if more organizations do that, can you see the cycle? What can happen? The ripple effect.
Phenomenal. It'd be absolutely phenomenal. How can we give back? How can we impact? How do we create a legacy, both as a leader and as an organization? How can we make a difference, and not just where our companies are based globally? And with the virtual world, there are no borders now to how we can make impact. So absolutely, these are the questions we as leaders need to ask. These are the questions we need to ask our teams, and question that as a culture of the organization as a whole, that really is something that we need to constantly be asking ourselves, because it's not something that happens overnight either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Someone asked me recently, they go, Raj, and I'm going to throw it here. It just is what it is. They were like, Raj, when you talk about trust and trust at work as a leader, it's kind of scary, right? Because people can take advantage of me, right? If I'm very trusting, right? Isn't it? It's very easy. I look weak. And I said, wow, that's interesting. I met them where they were, because I don't blame them for having that perspective. People have that perspective, and it is what it is, right? However, do I resonate with it? No, because the truth is, when you can show up as a leader and you can bring your team together and be vulnerable enough to say, listen, I don't know. The pandemic was another example for me. In my engineering company too, there were so many things I didn't know. Gautam, I didn't know how do you have a backup plan for, doing some brick mortar stuff online that, it's an industrial company. It's not exactly easy to do things without having people there. But,
right.
There were a lot of I don't knows. But the beautiful thing was I always follow that up with have the ability to bring in your team and ask, bring everyone together and make everyone realize that, listen, we don't know the answer. Let's come up with the best possible solution. And let's not be scared to make a decision. Another thing that always drove me mad was that everyone wants the best possible decision they can make, right? And I don't blame you, as we've all been trained so much that, okay, try to make the best decision. I agree, we want to, right? I mean, and I know a lot of you out there, should I make this decision? Should I not? But not making a decision, Gautam, is worse. It's like you're paralyzed. Everyone's like, what do I do, right? So it's as a cultural organization.
That comes from a fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of making a mistake. But at the end of the day, as we evolve in our thinking, we realize either we'll progress, we'll succeed, or we'll learn from it and we'll evolve, and you'll revisit that and you do it again and again. But otherwise, you're rejecting yourself in the first place by not making a decision. The answer is no. You've already failed to take a step. In taking a step, you have a 50-50 chance. You either succeed or you learn from it. I think that's again a mindset sort of some individuals, I guess.
Absolutely, well said. And what I heard you say most importantly is having the ability to learn from it. See, a bad decision. No decision is a bad decision. Right? Yeah. So you haven't even taken that decision. So you're stuck. But you've taken a decision that wasn't the best. You recruited everyone you could. You tried to get the best answer. You tried it. It didn't work. You learned from it. Now you know that doesn't work. Right? Correct. So anything, you found a new path. That one doesn't work. Now let's go somewhere else. Right? So if organizations, and now, okay, it's easy when you're on a leadership role. Okay, now let's turn this now. Let's take it a little lower, because people ask me this question. It's easy when you're the CEO. But what happens when you're not the CEO? What if you're working in your department? This is your job. Are you encouraged to make those decisions? Are you encouraged to go out there authentically and say, I think, sir, this is going to work? Or is it, no, you didn't agree with me, so no, you don't give me your opinion right now. See, that's what I mean by humanizing the organization. Can we drop these masks? What are the 4 or 5? I mean, there's a lot of tools out there, Gautam. I mean, there's tools that can help you, make better decisions. For example, improving trust, accountability, responsibilities, right? Having a united share. And these are all these different things we can do. A lot of tools out there it's just like having these toolboxes, but do you put your hand in there, dig out the right tool when you need it? You have to be willing. You have to be willing to say, first and foremost, this is what I want to be. I want to be an organization that's conscious. I do believe that we can be human at work. I do believe that love does belong at work. Why not? I have to love my work. I want people to love the work too. Someone told me the other day something really interesting. And again, I'm throwing it out. They said to me, but what if what you love to do is not what you can make money from? Someone said that, right? I may not be talented in playing music, and I can't sell a record. So I can't be a musician. So I have to do something else for a living. Absolutely. I understand that, right? But there's other things you can do that you might enjoy, or at least it gives you some energy that expands you, or something you want to learn, right? Yeah. And you can still do what you love outside of work. It's still
outside of work, which keeps you inspired, keeps you energized, keeps you in a positive state of mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the point is, it doesn't take away your humanity. You still can be human, right? And we don't forget that. We have to stop this robotic phase, and that's so that's sort of where I think we're headed, man. It's kind of exciting.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed our conversation so far, and it's been real, as you say, in the sense that to what the circumstances we're experiencing now over the last couple of years, and talking to the sensitivities and the change and the transformation, both as leaders, as companies, in culture. So just sort of in wrapping up towards the end, I wanted to know what's next plan for Rajeev himself. What's next plan in your journey?
Well, I love two things. One is that I'm already doing what I love by really holding the space for leaders and organizations. You might have seen people have asked me this. They said, you have been more active during the pandemic, but we've been hearing you talk and you're all over the place. And I said, well, I think it's the responsibility for all of us now to really show up. Yes. No, we don't have the luxury of procrastinating. Breath does count. We have to now value our breath. And that means that we have to create impact, Gautam. So for me, there's a lot of collaborations in place. I mean, there's a lot of amazing, things coming out. Recently, for example, there was a mental well-being program that I launched with, therapists called Mindfully You. And the whole idea was, I said, well, in mental health, we need to look at ways that we can proactively give people tools so they can actually check in before, so we can start building our tools box. I always say that, let's build our toolbox, right? Those are the kind of programs that are coming on the table. I spoke to you earlier about auditing your culture, programs like this. So not only let's go into culture work, but let's first see where we are. working on with people. I've been actually, the funny thing is, I've been working so much now with organizations and leaders more than ever before, who are now understanding that, wait, I want to, see that mirror. What's this mirror you're talking about? Because it helps them plan ahead, right? How do we look in the future? You want to create impact. Well, I think my organization is creating impact. My question is, don't think, check for yourself, find out how. And if you don't know, there's ways we can find out and we can help you align it. But it's not about me. You see, it's the thing that I always talk about, Gautam, and I know you do as well, is how can we hold the space so that what someone else needs, they can solution and move themselves forward.
Right.
Fair?
Right. Absolutely. So for organization or leaders who are perhaps watching or listening to this interview, would the first step for an organization with you and your team is to have a self-audit? Is that the first step that you would recommend, so they know where they are now in their own journey before even taking too many steps ahead? Let's start with a self-audit. Is that a natural and recommended first step?
Brilliantly said. Absolutely. Check in to see where you are as a leader or wherever you are in your department. Check in to see where your team and your organization is, to see where it's landing, because we all are coming back from this in different spaces. Yes, we need to offer support. Yes, we need to prioritize. We've always had to prioritize our people, right? We always have had to. But now we see evidence of it, right? So now let's just show up human. Let's understand, what can we do? What can we physically do to make this happen? And it all starts by seeing, okay, where are we? Check where you are. Just like everything you do, right? I saw a beautiful picture of you on Instagram. Should I say it? It's an amazing picture where I saw where you were on a photograph, and you've been working in yourself. And now I saw an after of all the amazing work you've been doing. But if you didn't have the before picture, the hard work wouldn't have shown on the after picture, right?
That's right.
So
right.
Take a picture, my man. So I start where you are. Great point. Self-audit. Check where you are. Check where your organization is. Start there. And then plan. Let's make a roadmap. When I say let's, means you make a roadmap and see where you want to go. Where are the gaps in your organization or in your personal life, and try to fill those up. Ultimately answering that one question, Gautam, where you started. How are we making impact today?
How are we making impact today? Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure, Rajeev. Learning from you, listening to you from your wealth of experience. And I know learning is a lifetime journey. Business itself is a journey. I think we are all part of a journey, and that's something we must realize. It is a journey that there are things which will happen outside our control. We need to accept what we cannot change. Always surround ourselves with people who uplift you, encourage you, inspire you. Continuously learn from each other. Learn from books, podcasts, videos, audios. There's a lot of content, and above all, take action. Because only when you take action will you either progress or you'll learn from it. So I think that's really sort of the environment that we'd really like to encourage each of the people on this session. You've had a pleasure of having my book, Breaking Bread. What does breaking bread mean to you, Rajeev, when you think of the term breaking bread?
I love it, man. When you told me about breaking bread a long time ago, I was like, oh, gold. To me, it's about making that deeper connection. Making that deeper connection with obviously others, but it starts with making that deeper connection with yourself. When's the last time you broke bread with yourself? When is the last time that you actually, recognize yourself? A lot of times in this journey of life, Gautam, we run. We were born, we keep on running. And we don't stop to acknowledge ourselves. We don't stop to see that, we didn't come with an instructions manual. We've done the best that we can with what circumstances we've been given, the experiences we've had. We've learned from situations. So what I share with you, breaking bread to me is a beautiful thing. It's about making deep connections. When you break bread with someone else, you welcome what you learn from them, what you share with them, the deep bond you can create. But first, start by breaking bread with yourself. Connect with yourself. Go within and be grateful for every single moment you've been given. It doesn't make a difference what anybody outside of you thinks. Start with acknowledging and accepting who you are. And from there, break bread and move forward.
Fantastic. I really like that perspective. I'd not heard anyone highlight break bread with oneself. And I do agree and resonate with that. Absolutely. When we break bread with ourselves and take care of ourselves, then only can we be the best version of ourselves to be able to break bread with every human being, be it your family, be it your friends, be it clients, be it your suppliers. Break bread with humanity in itself in that sense. So On closing, Rajeev, I'd love to hear one breaking bread story for you, because I know you've met many interesting people in your life, not only in the Gulf, whenever you've traveled, but when you look back on your journey and your transformation, is there one story that you could share where you broke bread with someone, when you look back and say that lunch, that dinner, that breakfast created a wonderful conversation, a meaningful friendship, and today you look back and there's been a lot of transformation? Any one story you could share?
Well, I was, I know this question was coming, Gautam, and it's a really tough one for me because I've had so many of those moments with so many amazing people. You're one of them, but so many amazing people that have inspired, transformed, and been part of this journey. But I want to play it the way I've been answering all your questions. I'm going to spin it a bit. If it's okay, with your permission.
Absolutely, absolutely.
My moment of transformation, the moment that changed my entire life, was when Raul was born, my son, my older son, when he was born. And when he made me, well, he didn't make me, but he kind of did. He made me go within, and he made me ask the question, why? What do I do with my life, and how do I make this world better for everybody else? And for him, right? So I remember we were in the hospital, and I remember, waiting. I remember, I don't even know if I ate something, but I will tell you, that was the moment for me. That was my breaking bread with myself, but more importantly with my son, because it made me a better human being. It made me realize that I'm here for someone else now. I need to make sure that I can make this world better. No longer was it okay to just, proceed, but I had to create impact. So I was thinking about this one. It was tough, but this is really where the most meaningful one for me. So I had to share that.
Fantastic. No, thanks for sharing. I think, nothing like a personal story, and I can only imagine the sort of experience you'd have had when your son was born. It's like you've broken bread with yourself, but you had to self-think how you need to change, the sort of responsibility, the impact that you would like to create as a great role model for him in your journey. That's an absolute fantastic one. So thanks a lot, Rajeev. It's been an absolute pleasure and privilege, as always, to spend time with you. And listen to you, learn from you, and again, share, mutual ideas and concepts. Any closing words you'd like to share as we wrap up?
Well, it's been an honor, Gautam. Thank you for doing what you do. You do it with so much grace, my friend. Look, I think that you said it all when you said, let's break bread, let's make deep connections. I do pray for everyone out there, whoever's still dealing with this pandemic. I send, love your way. I always say sending love and light to all of you. I do hope that organizations now understand that there is the opportunity for us to correct some course and bring love with us to work, show up with that humanity again, and if you are one of those people that need those numbers to prove it, science is doing a good job. Just take the effort to go out there and check, and you'll find that there is always something you can do. Like someone said to me a very long time ago, Gautam, the stillness has purpose when you can be still, but when you're consciously still. When you're not consciously still, keep moving. At least continue to move, and move consciously as well. So let's take the next step together. I look forward to holding the space for many people out there. And Gautam, thank you, my friend, for what you're doing. So proud of you. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed the conscious leadership and creating high impact. Thank you so much, Rajeev. Wishing you all the very best. Have a good evening.